Okay, we recorded for YouTube, so it will be public on YouTube. So I was a developer myself, was a manager, and then 2013 I went to Silicon Valley. I joined like the long chain of events. I joined Stellar, and then the same year, end of 2014, co-founded Distributed Lab. So you can think about us as a service company. We built a lot of projects, more than 100. We are more than 100 people team, so quite big for blockchain. And we co-authored, like I co-authored 5 books about blockchain and cryptocurrencies, etc. So there's one of them in Ukrainian. And we are quite unique in a way that we never participated in any ICO. We never issued tokens for ourselves. So, and kind of opposed the policy of utility tokens a lot, for which we were not like very popular, so to say, among like crypto industry, at least the hype part of it. But I personally traveled to like more than 60 countries, know a lot of people in person. Those like Bitcoin Core developers, like Ethereum developers, like Monero, anybody. So that's kind of gave us certain, like access to knowledge and reputation. So that's about myself. You probably found us on LinkedIn, so you can check who we are. So this course will be not conducted just by me. There will be many more people. So there'll be an announcement after, like who are the instructors. We'll have a lot of practical tasks. Basically, this course is dedicated for like practical tasks. But a few lectures will be conducted by people like me who will give you like general understanding of not just like blockchain or Bitcoin, but what's new, like because we've been in this for like long time, and we kind of have certain opinions that are not like template opinions. So you might enjoy it. If you disagree, you can obviously raise hand, and this meeting, like this Zoom meeting, is free to everybody to talk. So obviously, please don't do it occasionally, but there will be possibility to ask questions and like basically live. Why we're doing it for free? Because we love sharing knowledge. So I've been doing it for 9 years, and before that for not just for blockchain. And that's our way to hire people as well, and to market ourselves. And yeah, that's kind of our way of life. So we love sharing knowledge. So you'll see it. You can see our books, some of them already on GitHub, so you can access them for free, etc. There will be more organizational questions at the end of the meeting. So Olena, she's also PhD actually in databases. She's administrating such course and other activities. So organizational questions will be raised at the end, and you can do it obviously asynchronously between the lectures. So a few things that we believe in. I kind of conducted more than 100 lectures like this. I mean, the first ones. And obviously, the lecture that I conducted like 8 years ago will be very different from the one like today, because the knowledge already sunk in. To people, there is no need to explain in detail like what is Bitcoin, or like blockchain is not that easy. But I wanted to concentrate on things that are more like conceptual, that differentiate like people who we believe understand technology from those who like just try to make money on it, and sometimes not in a very honest way. It's our like third crypto winter, and we're surviving it pretty well. Even though we have war, a recession, like crypto winter, actual winter, and yeah, we're managing pretty well. And that's also because we have certain like values and certain like practices of like which projects we are working on, how we select clients, and so on and so forth. So basically, we believe that each technology has its own area of application. So if we talk about like whether blockchain is good for banks or not, that's usually a speculative question. Or like which blockchain is better, which consensus is better. Usually it depends on the many kind of nuances and factors that are not included in the question. So the question is useless. So, but also we see that a lot of technologies on the market are not mature at all. So they announced on white papers, and on white papers they could be cool, but in reality they're not just built very well. So technology needs like many years to mature. So, but we as a company, we study a lot of technologies, those that even, to so to say, conflicting ones. But we believe that it's a long-term like game. Like another 20 years will pass until these technologies will be like penetrating the wide market. So I know that there are many people, usually like people disagree a lot about like politics and about Bitcoin. You know what it is, how it works, why it's needed, whether it will go to zero or to infinity. You know its price. They may disagree on these, questions, and you can disagree with us. And I'm not claiming, even within like partners of our company, there are disagreements about like certain like trends, but it doesn't mean there was no scientific breakthroughs. So the kind of we will study these breakthroughs and we will show them to you, and basically, yeah, you decide how to use it, like yeah, in your life or business, etc. Also, we believe, like this is like a strong belief, that cryptography will be everywhere, or we can also kind of cut corners and say blockchain will be like everywhere, but there will be no blockchain conferences per se, like public ones, the big ones. It's like blockchain will be like atomic, physics. So people do not shout about atomic physics on streets and do not issue like atoms and etc. So it will be like very niche, but very like deep technology on which we will build in other things. And as a cryptographer, for me, it's kind of good relevation. So I know that my education will not be, yeah, wasted. Also, we believe that decentralization is really a cornerstone of life. So people who think that efficiency, centralization, and must be everywhere, and decentralized systems are not like good. They may be right in the particular moment, but long term, every centralized system will be broken. It will die, basically, like dinosaurs. And like microbes represent decentralized systems. They will outlive, maybe humans, because they act on a kind of different principles. So the whole concept of decentralization helps us to survive like viruses, informational viruses as well. Maybe now maybe right now I have COVID, because I feel like I have some small temperature and cold, because I was in bomb shelters for a couple of previous days. So I, just feel not well. But and many people right now have some viruses during this winter in Ukraine, including my colleagues. But also, humanity and living organisms are well protected because they are diverse and like life is decentralized. So we will pay a lot of attention to this. It's really an important thing. And very good book about this with a different title is Nicholas Taleb, Anti-Fragility. So if you haven't read it, you should. Also, we believe that designing an open economy, where I mean like tokenomics and all this stuff, is much harder than it seems. Basically, 99% of the tokens that were issued are like useless because they're very naive. They try to cut corners and achieve a specific goal, specifically investment, unregulated investment. I don't say it's bad or good, but I just say they cut a lot of corners, and designing good economy is really hard. So we will not talk about a lot about tokenomics or economics because we're not experts. We have one guy who is expert in economics, but still, it's like designing a living organism. Also, like you can design a robot, but making it like conscious is completely different task. It's probably the same magnitude of complexity. And also, we believe that there will be financial internet. So all accounting systems will speak the same language. That's actually our mission of the company, to bring it forward. It will take like decade, 2, 3, but it will definitely come. And yeah, we are working towards systems that more uniform than right now. Topics that we'll be discussing in this course. So how to achieve security using these technologies, cryptography, architecture of Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies, about consensus, smart contracts, DeFi. So pretty diverse course. And obviously, as I mentioned, a lot of practical tasks. So it's not a course about, oh, here's the scene, it's like so good, it's so, nice. No, it will be like really deep. Things we will not talk about is like how to make money, where to sell token, how to trade. So these are applications, and we are not experts in this field. Basically, we do not invest. We do not take payments in tokens, so we take cash, and that's kind of our like certain position. And we've been successful also because we did that. So companies, like we had some competitors who took tokens as payments. They either became like very rich, small percentage obviously, and stopped doing service, any kind of development, and most of them just went bankrupt, and that's it. So we kind of abstain from this field and focus on technology. Okay, first of all, I will talk a little bit about decentralization. By the way, if you have questions, you can raise a hand. And oh, by the way, see chat. Okay. Questions that related to organizational questions will be answered by our team. If you have a particular question about the content of the slide, I think you can switch on microphone and we will quickly discuss that. Okay, everybody, I assume saw this picture. That's so like pathetic already, because people don't really understand. I'm not talking about, if you join this course, you probably understand much better than regular people what this picture means. But there are certain like nuances that I want to emphasize. First of all, like the banking system as a whole, like banking system of the world, is much more decentralized right now than, for example, Ethereum or Bitcoin. Even if it sounds very like strange, but again, because it's like bank in whatever Uruguay, it doesn't depend on Bank of South Korea, and if something happens here, it will not influence in other country. And in like existing cryptocurrencies and blockchain systems are still in infancy, and they really not that distributed as we wish, but they they have the DNA of being distributed, and it may happen that there will be much more distributed than right now. We will talk about this like next slide. So when you look at systems, like sometimes, like Bitcoin Cash, is it distributed or not? We believe it's not even decentralized. Like 98% of transactions were, like, at least like a couple of years ago, were mined on a single server. So even though Bitcoin Cash was full copy of Bitcoin, so technically all transactions were like anonymous. Mining was, you could mine it technically if you want, and yeah, blockchain is there. So, but it's not, it's fully centralized. So many systems that have a stamp like blockchain are not decentralized or distributed at all. Like, so we should be really careful here when we do certain decisions regarding reliability or resilience or censorship resistance or something like that. So in the real life, there are a few examples of decentralization that are not that obvious, but they show like what it means. So my favorite example is that I've been to Vegas like many times, not for gambling, but yeah, for Bitcoin like conferences. Basically, any card game is an example of decentralized system. So there are certain rules that were established by somebody. We don't even know who they are, who invented, I don't know, poker or some other games preference. And but the rules are there. And if people play according to the rules, then the game will like succeed. And if somebody cheats openly, then other players will see and punish the player, whether just kicking him out of the game or, you know, physically, I don't know. So basically every person does calculations in their head to verify all the moves and calculate all the probabilities, and, you know, technically it's transaction processing. So even if the creator of the poker game comes, he or she will not have an advantage. He cannot change the rules or issue like new cards. So again, the cards also printed by independent companies. So it's an example of decentralized system. And it's kind of, we like life generally embedded a lot of these systems. So we are much more resilient than we think. So that's like my favorite example. I'm pretty sure I can come up with other examples where rules are independent from tools and independent from execution. So again, there is a question, is this the end? Like Bitcoin or like Monero or something like that? And from like, what's the vector of development? And we think it's basically, you have certain like digital ownership when you have something on your phone, and you technically you reconcile it only with yourself. Then you can have reconciliation, which requires at least like two parties to, you know, agree to follow certain protocol. Then you can have tokenization platform, which is basically a kind of a small registry of assets. Well, basically a small registry of something. A voting platform that requires many more people. Cryptocurrency, as we know it right now, like Bitcoin, and there is something beyond. And this is beyond is when cryptocurrency will be used over mesh networks, so not through internet service providers, and it will be using anonymizing techniques. So like in Monero and Zcash and you know, better. So this technology is already on the horizon, but they are not mature yet. So if you ask me whether Zcash works, yes, it works, but there were certain bugs that like a few people in the world can understand how to, what is the bug about in mathematics. And basically it prevents it from like usage such technologies because people cannot understand it. Bitcoin is very simple thing in terms of technologies used. Very simple digital signature, very simple hash function. Cryptographers were not really interested in Bitcoin until it gained a lot of popularity because it was so simple, like in terms of what crypto you are using. So, but it doesn't mean it's not advanced as a system. So yes, there is something where like some frontiers where we can go, and that's the topic of research for next like 20 years. So there will be a lot of more breakthroughs and a lot of more fun. A lot of, I think not a lot, but a few more crypto summers, crypto winters, and yeah, some people make money and some will lose. One thing I want to emphasize on why kind of crypto systems matter and where they're used like right now, because people say like Revolut works fine, ACH works amazing, it takes 1 second to transfer, blah blah blah. Yes, but I usually ask these people, can you send me the confirmation of the payment so I can show it to my friend or my partner or yeah, especially if it goes through Swift. And it's not possible to send a confirmation that anybody can verify. At the same time, if you send me transaction on any blockchain, even the shitty blockchain, there will be a transaction hash, a link to the Explorer, and everybody can verify the transaction took place. So basically, in traditional systems, in all traditional systems, you rely on trust to certain people, and in kind of blockchain-based systems, you rely on mathematics with a few assumptions that are not the topic of this lecture. Obviously, there are assumptions, but it's much more advanced. It's like a horse-powered car and Tesla, whatever. So at the end, where it's all moving is if you have a piece of data, whatever your balance, like money balance in the mobile banking app, you could verify that it's true, that it's really came from the ledger of the bank and it was not modified on the way to you or in the database. So right now you cannot do that at all. So even if you see certain number on your mobile banking app, it might be tampered with, on any basically stage. That's a crucial thing. So we will see a lot of more information security like breaches. A lot of money will be stolen because existing systems are not secure by design. That's the thing. I need to pay attention to Bitcoin also. Why it's became popular. I know probably some of you are like Bitcoin maximalist, and some of you think will go down to zero or just worthless. But we'll discuss it from a point of technology. So first of all, it has no registration, and much deeper, it has different concept of digital identity, which is an ideal world like self-sovereign identity. We will see a lot of identity startups, in the following years. Also, it's kind of anonymous to a certain extent. It is censorship resistant to a certain extent, at least at the design. It's quite independent from like third parties because there is no company like Bitcoin, and it's trustless in a way that you have to trust only mathematics, and obviously some developers, because you cannot verify all the code base yourself. So you need to trust some people, but much smaller amount of people than when you trust like traditional system. So important thing again about Bitcoin from a security perspective, that it is possible to build a secure accounting system, not even crypto, but accounting system that has zero security administrators, zero firewalls, no permission management, and no physical security. If you come to a bank and say, oh, now I will make your ledger that follows these principles, they will think you're insane. But again, Bitcoin showed that it's possible. It's obviously not true when you talk about centralized exchange, because centralized Bitcoin exchange is even worse than the bank. it has more security kind of potential security issues than a traditional like banking institution or exchange or custodian. But it's a separate topic, so we'll discuss this as well later. But this thing, and it's hard to argue with that. Also, there are very few cryptocurrencies around, like Bitcoin is one of them, like Monero. Most of these things, we'll come to that later, are not cryptocurrencies at all, but people perceive them as they are. But in order for certain digital asset to be a cryptocurrency, you need to satisfy a few like criteria. And the first one is that you have to decentralize all the processes. I've mentioned just 3 here, like issuance, processing, and storage, but there are like at least 8, including audit, etc. So it's when you think about, for example, Ripple, where issuance was done in a centralized way, and then it's not a cryptocurrency. Or if you think about private blockchains or tokens of systems of a game, for example, where developers process transactions. Also, it's not a cryptocurrency. It's other way of other type of digital asset, but definitely not a cryptocurrency. It also should be permissionless, which is hard to achieve. Then the third, number 3, is that only user can initiate transactions. So meaning that there shouldn't be a third party that's responsible for transaction processing, initiation, like a bank. And most of the blockchain systems, they follow this principle, and it should be censorship resistant. Again, only few crypto digital assets can be named censorship resistant. And I know it's a very kind of controversial example, but I still think that cryptocurrency is a version of a digital commodity. So basically, gold is a good example, but it's like a digital gold. And there might be a case where like Bitcoin or some, I think probably Bitcoin could be used as a reserve currency between central banks. It could happen, maybe not like tomorrow, but there is such a chance because it's quite independent from many factors and hard to coerce. So even though it's still in not even full release, the version of Bitcoin Core haven't reached 1 yet. It's like 0 dot something. So we'll see. There are a lot of myths about like cryptocurrency. Like the first one I slightly mentioned, that like CoinMarketCap lists cryptocurrencies, which is complete, not true. The tokens, coins, terms are interchangeable with cryptocurrency. Also, that people like some maximalists believe that cryptocurrency will replace all intermediaries, which again, you can ask me questions or we'll discuss it later during other lectures, but it will not replace all intermediaries at all, like never. Some people think, probably definitely not you, that creator of Bitcoin, of cryptocurrency, can issue more, of them, change rules, control the system. That was the usual question like 7 years ago. Also, like that cryptocurrency is faster or better or growing faster, the price than some other assets. And Shiba Inu is not a cryptocurrency. I don't even understand why its price is better than, for example, Solana. But again, I'm not an expert in marketing, and that's purely about marketing. Any questions? Seems like no. Okay. To the moon, now we come to the meaning of blockchain. It's a very controversial topic. If you ask like 10 people that are blockchain experts, what is blockchain, you will get different answers. And we have our own answer, and I can, stand behind it. But usually people mix a few things. Some people kind of treat blockchain as a particular blockchain, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any other public blockchain. Or they can think about this as a blockchain, like as a technology, or they can think about private blockchain, some like people who work in corporations, for example. These are all, I would say, incomplete. But the worst thing is that people use this, they don't understand each other. They don't distinguish what they mean. And that brings a lot of confusion. Our version of our terminology is that blockchain is a secure method. It's not even technology, it's a method to store and synchronize data between parties who do not trust each other. So basically, it implies that could be many implementations of blockchain depending on how many parties, how hard they do not trust, and how particular, like how much data should be processed, etc., etc. So that if you apply this definition to any project, you can see that it, in most cases, it will fit. So it's much wider than just blockchain is a chain of blocks, which is also true, but it's just like a narrow definition. So from a technical perspective, it's really a chain of blocks, but technically they may not be even blocks. They might be just transactions. So it can use any database. There is no point to kind of say whether blockchain is better than database or not. And just another way of linking like data to each other, data blocks to each other. So it's kind of quite simple in this regard. But there are a lot of myths, obviously, as you can see from the fact that people mix different things together, like cryptocurrency, technology, particular implementation, etc. You might find myths that you believe in, and I'm happy to talk about that. A lot of people in corporations think that blockchain is slow and requires a lot of energy. Now, I think not anymore, or that it's immutable, it's always correct, or it's vulnerable to 51% attack, that it always need miners. These miners should be like somewhere. Then you need to issue your token. Otherwise, it's not a blockchain, but bullshit. People believe in many things. So read it through. We will share the presentation. If you have questions, I will answer on later. And now the most popular is about quantum blockchain, whether it will kill quantum computer, whether it will kill blockchain or not. I usually answer that, obviously, it will make underlying cryptography vulnerable, but it doesn't mean that it will break the concept. So all financial systems based on traditional existing cryptography will become vulnerable. But there are already post-quantum algorithms, so we'll be fine. The last topic that I want to cover before questions is tokenization. It's also very overhyped word. I also when I talk about this, I say that all assets will be tokenized. And people sometimes think that, okay, it means that we need to rush, go to Ethereum, issue a token, and then what? And then list on an exchange and make money. But not really. Basically, tokenization is the way to transform your software. And this software, the software is needed to do accounting of certain assets. This asset could be money, could be stocks, could be loyalty bonus points, could be real estate, ownership rights, anything. And when tokenization is applied, the ownership of a particular asset is represented by a digital key. So not by just a record in a database that administrator can, do something with. But like in Bitcoin, so you have an account, you have wallet, and okay, have an address, you have wallet, and you have a private key that can initiate transactions. So basically, only owner of a key can make changes to account. That's the crucial thing. But from a legal perspective, tokenization platform is just a registry of property rights. So it's not different from a paper registry. It's really the same thing. So it's just a new technology used to do accounting. So not really a breakthrough in accounting and legal perspective, but a huge breakthrough from technological perspective. It's like you can move by walking, or you can move by a jet. It's still like movement between like two locations, but yeah, the speed and comfort is completely different. So there are a lot of myths. Certain I addressed, like people believe that it's a new asset class, whether it could be tokenized stock. It means the token representing stock is a stock. It's not a token. So I would abandon word token at all, but it penetrated people's minds a lot. So probably it's late to do that. So also people think that if you tokenize your asset, it will be distributed over internet. You lose control. That or it cannot be stolen if it's in smart contract. Or you need government approval, or you need to do an ICO. That's like so 2017. Yeah. So basically, a lot of myth about tokenization, and it's not unique for our industry. The same thing, same myth appeared about electricity. You can read about like Nikola Tesla inventions. The same thing was about like speed of movement. People thought it's unsafe to move over like 40 kilometers per hour, that your internal organs will like whatever cause some illness. So about genetics, obviously, so it's normal. So that's why it takes like decades to teach people to kind of break the myth and to build technology that actually works. In some cases like magic, but when it works, then critics that initially didn't accept it, like you've seen what happened with CEO of JP Morgan, who first said, "Oh, that's all scam," and then he says we will issue our digital dollar on blockchain. So yeah, and have custody with Bitcoins. So these are typical myths. And during next lectures, we will talk more about technological like implementation and trends. And for today, I think it's save some money for questions. So I think it's enough slides. So if you have questions, feel free to ask me right now.
Pavel, do you think Bitcoin was implemented by one person?
Yeah, it could be. There was a person that had knowledge in cryptography, in distributed systems, and economy. And there are certain candidates. The most famous is dead already. Yeah, so it could happen.
Thank you.
Hi, sorry, nobody's asking, so I'll ask.
Sure.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. Obviously funny that you brought up Shiba Inu, saying it's not a crypto, to which I agree, but it'd be interesting to find out do you have a process of analyzing various crypto assets and and deeming that this is closer to, this follows the principles of being trustless, being decentralized, and so on and so forth. So this asset does, and this asset doesn't follow these principles. How do you do it? If you do look at cryptocurrencies, I imagine you do, but you said you won't be talking about this, but still would be quite interesting to find out more about your thought process when looking at all these different assets.
We will share it in, so there are like 8 processes that are inside every accounting system. And if some of them is not decentralized, then it's not a true cryptocurrency. So for example, if you cannot do an audit of the code base or a transaction, it cannot be cryptocurrency. Other assets, so on next lecture I will dedicate to utility tokens, actually, because that was the huge like disruptor, certain to say, of the industry. It helped to raise a lot of money. It helped to scam a lot of people. So there are many questions about how utility tokens work and what they are. We will talk about that. But basically, first we look what token represents. So if token represents certain like security, like stock, bond, something like that, then obviously it is a stock, bond, or etc. If token represents certain digital asset like NFT, it is a digital asset, basically. Non-fungible, like these toys or my dog is also non-fungible. Also, if token is a currency, then it is a currency. And some tokens are a mix, like utility tokens are usually a mix of currency and security. So basically, they can have 2 like sides, and they act in a non-linear way, non-predictable way. So like Shiba Inu, for example, I would like, so the framework that you're asking, first of all, we check it whether it's cryptocurrency or not. Second, we check it whether it's some existing asset or not. And if no, then there are very few options. Either it's like so-called utility token or something else. So we try to come up with the framework. I even posted one thing on CoinDesk, but I'm not also like fully happy with this. Try to find it right now. Basically, we don't really analyze different cryptocurrencies. So it just, when clients come and ask to build them something, we try to look whether it makes sense. So that's the case. We still believe that there are a lot of innovation coming, and we just need to wait a little bit. Like a little bit means years, to see which innovation really there and which is not.
Thank you.
While I'm searching, please ask to tokens.
I mean, I have a million more questions if nobody's
I
asking.
found the article that you might be interested in. Let's find the chat. Yep, here.
Thank you.
And here. These are old, but they still have some, ideas.
Okay, thanks. So another question then. So I think there were 3 slides on the myths of tokens, blockchain, and cryptocurrencies. Are all very interesting because maybe, and I imagine you could go on for hours explaining each point, and they were all very interesting. But one thing I noticed that stood out to me is that cryptocurrencies are not faster than fiat. Could you elaborate on that?
I started actually from this, that decentralized systems, they always will be slower than centralized and always less efficient. And basically, fiat is not about technology. Fiat is about like centralization of issuance. And when you have centralized issuance and processing, you can speed up system like much higher than any decentralized one, even if there are just two nodes. So this is just kind of by default, like living alone like is easier in terms of issues at home than when you live with wife and children, for example, just because more problems appear. And it might not be more happy life, but problematic for sure. So the same logic applies here.
Okay, thanks. I think there was somebody else wanting to ask a question. Somebody raised a hand.
No, I just wanted to add that as far as I know, transfers, because Bitcoin transfers are pretty slow. They take hours or even days.
Well,
to be
it's
finished.
like technically they take up to 10 minutes on average, but if you put a small commission, we'll talk about this on following lectures, then it could take days for sure. And sometimes the network congestion can also influence that. So decentralized systems or distributed systems are like unpredictable in terms of, so to say, service layer agreement. So because they are distributed. So if you have certain level of resilience, you kind of give up certain efficiency. So that's it. It doesn't mean they should be slow. They could be much faster. You could manage that. Just traditional systems were all built centralized. We still live in a hierarchical world, and we think in it. It's built in us. And these systems, they are new. So like even email is or internet quite decentralized. There was interesting, I forgot the title of the book, when some guy in 1992 explained what is internet to some investors. Investors couldn't understand what it means. There is no president of internet. Like, whom should I talk about to buy internet or like to manage to do something? So, and it was just 30 years ago. So not a lot of things changed in the kind of heads of normal people. So they still try to find somebody responsible, somebody who will, help them, or they will rob them. That's the thing. So it applies to not just ownership, but to many other concepts.
Thanks.
There was also a question, was it possible to predict crash of FTX? Yes and no. I mean, from outside, only fact that like banks deal with fiat currencies, which already made very hard to steal. So if you steal, like we all see movies about like hackers that transfer like billions of dollars by click of the button, but it's not really true. So these transactions will not be processed as that easily, and it can be reversed. In cryptocurrency, if you have an exchange that operates with real cryptocurrency, which is kind of, it's traceable, but you cannot reverse transactions. So obviously, if somebody gets the key, they can steal all the money. And it could be the founder of the exchange, obviously, too. Second, so by default, any cryptocurrency exchange bears much more risks than another centralized service. So by default. So I would say that probably any cryptocurrency exchange will eventually be hacked and might be, just even if it's not insured, then it will be like just, done. Another thing is the behavior of people. So some people on the industry believe that they are invincible and that they are like gods. And you can look at, what they do, what they post, how they behave, etc., etc. So eventually they will make a mistake. So the guy, for example, those who knew them, Sam, who knew him personally, he was quite shady. So he couldn't answer like basic questions, how he manages risks, how he does this, does that. So you can watch videos with CEO of Alameda and how he answers the questions about risks. That's just not the way how assets should be managed. So technically it is possible to predict, but you never know when. Please.
Dan, please.
Oh, thank you. Also, another question. You said banking currently is more decentralized than Ethereum, etc. For now. How do you think it is possible to achieve that level of decentralization and speed in blockchain so it will be more effective than fiat?
It's a very good question. So why I said it's more decentralized, because it has basically each banking branch is independent from others. Like Ethereum is fully like kind of connected. So if you change the rule here, it will apply to other parties. Basically, I think the future is multiple blockchains. Let's say each asset may have its own like blockchain-based registry. So for example, art NFTs will be managed by whatever, Polygon. Then real estate will be managed by whatever fork of Ethereum. Some other assets will be managed, like JP Morgan will launch its US dollar on Quorum, for example. And USDC launched on Ethereum, or Binance has this, and et cetera, et cetera. So you have this zoo of blockchains. They might be different ones, and they might be the forks of the same one, but independent forks. So not like Bitcoin Cash from one stem, but fully independent. And then you have a wallet, like for now, like MetaMask, where you can aggregate all the blockchains, all the assets. So then the transaction in one chain will not affect transactions in another chain, and congestion in one chain will not influence other chains. People call it L2, there are many names. You can think of just about multiple chain world. And that's where we believe everything is moving. And that's where we believe how financial internet should be functioning. So every company will eventually, we believe, will have its own registry, blockchain-based registry, and transactions will be processed regarding assets of this particular company. So like loyalty points of particular supermarket chain will be processed in this blockchain, private one, but collectively it's like internet. Like all sites, they're independent, but you have a browser where you can access all of them. So something like that. And then it might be not about the speed of particular accounting system. The centralized system will always be faster. But if you think as a whole, then for sure it's really efficient system, ecosystem. We need to come up with the picture like of this. I understand it from words, it's hard to grasp, but something like that, a multi-blockchain world. Okay. If somebody else has last question, I will take it.
So it's interesting. I'll ask if if nobody's asking. It's interesting that the picture that you've just painted is very interesting, because I've heard a lot of people saying, "Oh, how many more layer ones can be there? You know, there are so many, and new ones like Aptus coming up. It's so 2017 or whatever to come up with new layer ones." But what you're saying now is actually no, you know, there will be always a good time to to come up with new block like layer ones, because there will be so many more applications for them. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think the terminology will change, because layer one is like somebody claimed that name. Look at messengers, for example. Like Telegram was not there until 2013. And the messengers who had like hundreds of millions of users when Telegram appeared, and now it's one of the first. So it's kind of, I don't think we will be using layer one. So I would think as Ethereum is technically is a depository, like for stocks depository. So you could have many depositories in the world. You can have the one that became the biggest one, but it doesn't mean it's by design. It's the only one, or etc. People can, switch preferences, like with messengers. It's good to have a few global ones, where, because it's like Pareto, not Pareto, but people cannot maintain a lot of items in their operating memory. So basically, they always like competition tends to work in a way that you have the leader, then the second leader, the third leader, and then long tail. So, and this leader could be anybody. So it's not fixed, but yeah, I think there is a room for, not even for competition, but for okay, let me give you a strange example. It's really efficient to have one fridge for the whole house, from energy perspective, or have one washing machine, or it's 5 washing machines for the whole house. And in America, you actually have this, basement with 10 washing machines, and everybody, and it's prohibited to have washing machine in your apartment. But we know that it's it's not efficient, it's much more convenient to have a washing machine and a fridge like separately in each apartment. And basically, so it's a room for a lot of products that fulfill that need in comfort, even though it's very convenient to have the single one. And creators of every blockchain, they say, we are the most efficient ones, there is no need for anything else, blah, blah, blah. We already covered all the use cases, but no. And why no? Not even why no, why they claim that? Because their business model, like of all L1s, the current business model is a token, is the price of the token. And I think it's wrong. So it just happened, it's jump started with the token as the primary business model. But in 20 years, I'm not so sure that it will be there. I think it'll be a different model. So right now, they compete using tokens, and whoever is more powerful can give grants to projects, but I think this model will be changed. So that's, again, it's a certain speculation, but yeah, you can follow my logic.
Okay, thank you.
Good, okay. Let's keep it not long. You always can shoot me a question on email, or just, yeah, we have. Olena, you wanted, I guess, announce some.
Yes, yes. So my name is Olena, and I will help each of you if you have any questions about organizing interaction or using Google Classroom platform. My contacts are posted in the classroom, and you can use the course feed to post your comments, your questions, etc. So we have a plan, and after each lecture, we will post material in Google Classroom. After almost every lecture, we will post a quiz on the topic of the lecture and also practical tasks. But after this, after first lecture today, you don't get a task, only relax. We will post we will post tests, quizzes, practical task, lecture presentation, link to video recordings, announcement, and you will receive notification by mail on directly to your device from the classroom. This is how Google Classroom works. Each assignment or test will have deadlines. Your points for all tasks will accumulate. Based on the sum of all points and the corresponding level, you will be able to receive a certificate if you successfully complete all elements of the course. The certificate signed by the key of distributed lab organization and the Bitcoin or Ethereum system with corresponding entry in the blockchain. I will write about this in the classroom. I will not separately. If you have difficulties with practical tasks, no problem. You can try to master only the theoretical part of this course, but try it. It will be interesting, and we will try to share interesting materials so that you are not bored. Difficult, but not boring. We have added information about our books is a separate section to Google Classroom. You can view and order. It is especially interesting to try to purchase an NFT books. So our next meeting will be held on Thursday, and this same time via this link. Thank you for all, and we wish you success.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Have a nice day.
Good evening. Good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you next time in 2 days. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a nice evening. Bye.